All right, in the last video you saw how to produce this pivot table right here that summarizes columns B and C over here. And so what we want to do now is do a little cutting and pasting to get these values down here in a format that we can do some stuff with more easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come up here to the pivot table and copy or highlight, sorry, all of the information that I have here. And then I'm going to come over here to copy, okay, and choose copy right there. The keyboard shortcut for this is just to hold down the control key and press the C key, C for copy. Okay, so notice when I do that, I end up with this sort of squiggly line around the stuff that I'm going to copy. That's just Excel telling me what I'm about to copy. Now I want to highlight where I want to put the copied data. Let's use this cell right here. And I'm going to choose paste from the toolbar up here. Here's what it looks like. Okay. And on the drop-down menu, I'm going to look for paste values. Looks like this. Let me do this again, a little bit magnified. There is paste values right there. It looks like a little clipboard with a 1, 2, and 3 on it. So if I do that, what I get down here is a reproduction of the information that's up here, but instead of having formulas in these cells, I just have the raw values. See, if I click on 580 up here in the pivot table, I get all this over here, and there's all sorts of programming connected to it. Down here, it's just 580 with nothing else, and that's what we want. Okay, I've still got this squiggly line around the pivot table. To get rid of that, all I have to do is hit escape on the keyboard, and that goes away. Okay, and now I'm ready to work with this stuff down here. Now, if you remember from what you've seen of chi-sq already, what chi-sq does is it contrasts a range of observed values with a range of expected values. And that's what we're about to set up. These are our observed values, okay? The things that, the values that we saw when we actually looked at the data. What we now need to figure out is what our expected values would be. What values would we expect the table to have if there were no non-random relationship between the type of ad and whether or not the ad includes a fear appeal. Okay, to get that, I want to highlight this one more time. Okay, and this time I'm going to do it on the keyboard. I'm just going to press Control C, and then come down here and press Control V. That's a V as in victory. All right, so that just copies what we had up here, because as you'll see in a minute, I need 2 copies of this information in order to work with. I also just hit escape on the keyboard to get rid of the squiggly line around this stuff that I just copied. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hollow out this second table that I created. I'm going to take these 4 numbers right here, the numbers that define how many you have of each category type, highlight them, and then just hit delete on the keyboard. Okay, so that clears it out. And down here is where I'm going to put those expected values. Now, when you do a chi-sq, you have to compute these expected values, and you do it by writing a little Excel formula. But there's a pattern to the formula, so watch this carefully. I'm going to start with an equal sign, because that's how you always start a formula in Microsoft Excel. And I'm going to take whatever is down here at the bottom of the column, the column total, okay? And I'm going to multiply that, which I tell Excel to do by holding down the Shift key and pressing the asterisk. Okay, multiply it by whatever's out here, the row total for that category. Okay, and then I need to divide, which I do by hitting the slash key on the keyboard. Make sure it's the one where the top of the slash tilts to the right. Okay, so divide by the grand total, this number right here. All right, and then press enter. Okay, so there's the expected value there. Now I need to do the same pattern for this cell here. I'm going to do it a little faster this time. Equal this number here times the row total out here. Notice I didn't do this one, I did this one. Divided by the grand total. All right, and then just press enter. Same thing, I'm going to make this issue column a little wider here. There we go. Same thing for this column right here. Okay, I'm going to do this one with the keyboard, just using the keyboard and the arrow keys. Equal, down arrow a couple of times. There's the asterisk, times this value divided by this value. And again, using the keyboard, this value times this value divided by this value. Okay, so there are our expected values. These are the observed. Okay, this is what we would expect to get if there were no relationship at all between the type of ad and whether or not it includes a fee or appeal. As you can see, these values are a little bit differently. If there were no relationship, we would expect 613 of this kind of ad, issue ads with no fee or appeal. In fact, we had 580, a little bit fewer. Here we had 60 ads that are image ads with a fee or appeal. We would have expected more, 93 of them. Okay, so we have those two numbers. All right, so the last thing we need to do is just calculate the chi-square value. Let's label it right here. Okay, and then here, let's use the same function that we used in the earlier video. Equal chisq test, all right, and then a left parenthesis. And we need to find the observed range, or the actual range. That's here. Okay, just those four. And then a comma. And then the expected range, the things we just finished calculating right there. And then a right parenthesis. And finally, enter. There we go. And once again, we have a really, really small number. This number is 0.0000119. That's what the scientific notation means. That's a whole lot less than 0.05. So that means that the difference that we see here between our observed values and our expected values is too large to suggest that it showed up for random reasons. So the next likeliest conclusion is that that difference is there for a non-random reason. There must be some systematic relationship between the type of ad that we see, an image ad or an issue ad, and whether or not the ad includes a fee or appeal, yes or no. At least we're saying that that relationship is non-random. We don't know if these two things cause each other, but we know that the relationship between them could not have been caused by some random process. Okay, so that's how to set up a pivot table in Microsoft Excel and also produce a chi-square analysis between the observed and expected values.